What's up, everybody? Steven here with Neural DSP with another Q&A. This is not exactly the scenario that you usually find me in, but here I am, just hanging out in my apartment because the internet was down in my studio. So I'm here hanging out with you guys. So, how's everybody's week been? Let's go ahead and pop out the chat. Go ahead and put this up. This is a very, very different setup for me. I usually have like so much more stuff like ready to go, but I got to my studio today and the internet was out, so I ended up having to like come back to my apartment and set up my laptop and my stuff like super quick on the fly. But yeah, okay, cool. So let's go ahead and get into some questions. So I kind of wanted to think about compression videos. So like I've been doing the compression series 2 videos drop, like basic controls and different types of compressors and typical situations that you would find use for them in. So I wanted to really kind of address, like, if you guys had very hyper specific situations that you wanted to use compressors in. Unfortunately, I'm not set up in my apartment to be able to show you a session and actually demonstrate this sort of stuff, but hopefully I can kind of feel out what you guys are having the most problems with, so that way I can just address it directly on the next video that I make for the compression series. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and just start looking through the questions and get through the chat stuff. So yeah, awesome. James Yellow, good to see you, my man. Carl, Tyler, how's it going, dude? I'm loving the track. Modern Vintage says, "What's up, Steve?" Hey, how you doing, Modern? Regarding compression, I'm wondering if you use the GGD smash and grab on the compressor. Can you speak on that quickly, since we covered guitar bass compression last week? Yeah, absolutely. I've been using the GGD smash and grab, and it's awesome. I really like it. I think it has it switches between like a FET and a VCA compressor. Yeah, it's super versatile, and it's a great tool. I love the beef and the air knob, so you can kind of I forget if it's pre or post compression where it changes the EQ spectrum. So I'm not sure, but yeah, I've been really digging the GGD, and I would recommend it for sure. Michael D, what's up? Let's see. Oh, a lot of people. Okay, cool. Let's go ahead and get through these. Let's put my glasses on so I actually read properly. Be a good thing. Okay. Modern Vintage says he's making the most of the rain in LA by playing more. Yeah, no, I'm getting hit by that same rain, dude. It's pretty ridiculous. Let's see. All right. A bit louder, please. Is that vocals? I'm trying my best, my dude. Check. I don't want to check. All right, cool. Yeah, so just want to let you guys know that first song was written by Tyler Britton, who's in the chat right now. I thought it was great. He sent it over to me. I took a listen. I was like, yeah, I want to use it for the intro to the Q&As. And that's definitely something. I know, Carl, I want to get your stuff on here as well. Again, I had such limited time to get this set up for the Q&A that it was pretty ridiculous. But I managed to get the one song downloaded into Windows Media Player before I got this going. So, but yeah, I want to get some more of your guys' stuff featured on the channel, either on the Q&As or the actual Friday videos. So, Calibor, you can sort of hear me. All right. Check. Yo, let me see if I can turn up my input just a little bit louder. Yo, what's up? Okay, thanks. A little bit better. All right. Again, normally I have like my whole like rig and setup like pretty awesome at the studio. So like I said, I'm kind of running and gunning right now. So let's just figure this out. So. Great. So yeah, so that intro song was by Tyler Britton. Hit him up. He makes good music. I like it a lot. Yeah, Modern Vintage says he thought it was Alice in Chains, but yeah, that's I can hear the influence, and it's pretty awesome. Okay, so Modern Vintage asks, he has all the GDD libraries. Would you use the smash and grab in addition to those, or are they mix ready and not needing additional compression? No, I definitely, so for this Friday's video, I actually did something a little bit different for this Friday's video, which you'll see, but I ended up using the P4 kit, and I ended up stemming out the tracks so I could do some additional compression and EQ on them. I mean, they're pretty mix ready as it is, but I would say that they still need some processing, especially if you want them to get like loud and in a mix. Yeah, like I would say they do need a little bit of post processing, but I think that's more just to taste and to the mix. Like any preset, it's not ever going to just work for work for everything, right? It typically has a typically has like a single use, and then like you could just adjust from there. So yeah, so long story short, yeah, I would use the smash and grab. I would use some additional EQ and compression and like just kind of make it sit in my mix a little bit better. So yeah. Yeah, Tyler Britton, get your shit on iTunes, bro. Like, there's no reason for you not to. Either that or Spotify. Get yourself a Spotify playlist going. Like that's something that you absolutely have to do. There's no reason for you not to put this music out. Ooh, yes. So Michael D says I'm going to record my cover of Trans Siberian Orchestra's Christmas Eve Sarajevo. He'll send it to me once it's done. You can use it for December Q&A. Dude, that's fucking awesome. That was always one of my absolute favorite tracks to listen to. When I first heard it, I was a kid. I don't even remember when it originally came out, but it was just so cool. So I'm really looking forward to that. Send it to me whenever you get it done. If you need help or anything like that, obviously hit me up. I don't know what you need help with, but I'm here. So awesome. Let's see. James Yellow, that's actually a really good question. So he asks, what's your opinion on mixing with headphones? So I think that um, it's not the best situation for most people to be in. Now I know that Nolly mixes on headphones. He has like a pair of open back headphones. I don't remember the maker model, but like Nolly mixes on headphones, but Nolly is also exceptional, right? Like he is Nolly because he's Nolly, right? So I think that mixing on headphones is again not the best situation to be in, but like if you have to mix on headphones, I would suggest getting the SonarWorks headphones app, so that way you can flatten out the EQ, because no pair of headphones is completely flat. Like even my pair of headphones I have at the studio is supposedly flat, but it's not actually flat. So I ended up actually having to use some correction, and it does sound better. I wouldn't say better is the right word for it, but it's like sounds more accurate to what you're supposed to be listening to. So if you do go the route of headphones, get yourself the SonarWorks app so it can correct the EQ curve. Um, but I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, depending on what you have and how used to it you are, because obviously your ears do get far more tired in headphones than they do with monitors. So like I could mix for maybe like 15 or 20 minutes doing like a metal track, and then like my ears are like toast, rather than using monitors and being able to mix for like a half an hour, 45 minutes, right? So like your ears are going to get fatigued far faster with headphones. The EQ curve is not quite as accurate on headphones. That's why most people don't suggest it. But there are definitely headphones that are relatively flat. There are, I think, Empire Ears. I've heard of them, that they're in-ear monitors, and I've heard that they're pretty good. I haven't tried them myself, like, so that's not exactly an endorsement, but it's like there are products out that actually um, do the things that you're looking to do. So yeah, cool. Right. Oh, okay. So Carl asks, any favorite emulation of analog compression gear? Um, so so for the last video, um, I went through the different types of compressors, and most of those are modeled after analog compressors. But the one that I was actually like most kind of surprised by was the Puig Child, which is a copy of the Fairchild 660 and 670. It's a very like a variable gain compressor. And I actually had a lot of fun with that. It was my first time using it, but I needed to have an example, so I downloaded the demo of it, like put it through its paces, and was like, okay, great, I can use it on these applications. And then I ended up actually really liking it over like in the example, I liked it over the SSL only because the Puig child kind of brought out the strings and the additional background elements that I was kind of looking at. Whereas the SSL was a little bit more transparent, and just made everything kind of like more even, I guess, is the way I can describe it. So like kind of pushing the things into the Puig child ended up warming up the track, which was what it kind of needed. So yeah, so I was surprised by the Puig child. Um, I know that people like the API compressors by Waves, as well as the SSL compressors. Also, like it's a standard by most people. But yeah, yeah, those are generally some of the ones that I've liked. To be very honest, though, I really actually like the I don't know. I'm lazy. I'm super lazy. I love a compressor that could be like all things in one. So like I love my Pro C2. I love my Chef's Omni channel, so it has like a FET VCA and Opto setting in it. So the Chef's Omni channel, the Pro C2, and then there was one other one that I just had in my head. Um, the Smash and Grab, of course. Yeah, yeah. We were just talking about that. um, so those are like generally like the three that I'll go to, unless I have a very very specific need of something different. And part of that is just that I need to also take the time to experiment with a lot of the others and find those really like solid applications, for those things. So, all right, moving on. Oh, yeah, okay. So Modern Vintage says he was so excited for the UA Diesel amp, but they really let him down. Heads up to anyone, Nolly is better. And yeah. So I actually haven't tried it myself, so I can't really speak to that, unfortunately. I don't know. I mean, like the more I work for Neural, the more I'm like entrenched in their camp, where I'm like, yep, I'm just gonna go with Neural. I don't even need to like try other things. I probably should to understand what competition we're against. But besides that, like I don't even try anything else. Like I got my Neural plugins, and now like every mix, everything I'm working on, even outside of the Neural content, like I still use all of their stuff. Like I think the thing that I get annoyed at most is when companies hire representatives or people to front their channels, but they aren't honest. So like, you can tell that they don't really like what they're peddling. It's just that they're getting a paycheck. Like I actually really love the neural stuff, so I've just forgotten about everything else that's coming out. Like people tell me like, "Oh, did you check out this other thing?" And I'm like, "No, I haven't. I got all I need." So yeah, so that's a bummer that they were bad though. But yeah, no, like I think Neural generally leads the charge when it comes to giving people the user experience that you guys want. So yeah. Do 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 do. Awesome. So Tyler Britton says that the encouragement is really uplifting, um, and he's gonna put that up on iTunes. Yeah, you need to. They're like, well, I said it earlier. There's no reason for you not to. Um, I get frustrated because I know people personally who make amazing music but never release it. And most of it comes from that like idea of like perfectionism and like, oh, I just want to do one more mix. Oh, I just need to tweak this. I need to tweak these levels. I need to do this like, and that sort of perfectionist mindset is sort of a killer to productivity. Um, and that's something that I've learned quite extensively over the last like 2 years, in my venture in audio, is that like you get the thing done, you do the best you can, you learn from your mistakes, and then you move on. Like this is your art. It should be out there for people to learn and enjoy from. So yeah, so I'm super happy that you're going to do that. Awesome. Okay. Um I'm gonna mispronounce your name, but Olivier Gonzalez says, "What do you think about the new Stam Audio Stam Child compressor?" I'm guessing that's another Fairchild copy. I actually haven't had a chance to try it. To be very honest, I don't buy a whole lot of plugins right now. I'm saving up my money for like video gear and instruments and stuff like that because like I have way too many plugins already. So I have to then list all my priorities to be able to figure out like, okay, what's next on my list? Like, okay, what's next on my list is a camera or something like that, or a new lens, or new lights, or new instruments, or new pickups, or name whatever thing. So like, I haven't checked that one out. I would be down to try it though. I mean, I always love trying new stuff. Everybody loves that, right? It's the new. Okay. So Modern Vintage says, great $1,500 plus in-ear monitors would always be better than comparable headphones for guys like us who play music more so than listening, right? Yeah. So it would depend on what your goal for that is. If you are like, as I don't play any gigs anymore. If I did play gigs, yeah, I would want to get a good set of like in-ear monitors for sure. Um, if and I like so the original question James was talking about headphones, mixing in headphones, like so that's geared towards the mixing side rather than the headphone side. But like, yeah, the inner monitors can be great flat response. Um, but yeah, generally would be good more for performance than listening. So yeah, but I could be wrong. I could absolutely be wrong. I don't know. I actually have never tried in-ear monitors. I really want to. I mean, like, I have headphones or whatever, but like, I don't have like in-ear monitors that are legit. I might check out those Empire ears for because they actually do like a molding of your ears, and then you have like hyper specific in-ear monitors for your ears. It's pretty cool. Let's see. Harry Lowe says the Plugin Alliance has a great range of compressors. The best he finds are the SSL console E and the Focusrite console. Yeah, Focusrite console. I would agree. Generally, like most SSL copies are pretty awesome. And I do like Plugin Alliance. I actually don't have a subscription to them because I have a lot of subscriptions already. Um, but I haven't tried the Focusrite console. I'm really curious to try that one out. Um, I know the Brainworks compressors are really highly coveted. Like those are like the things that most people I know are talking about right now. The Brainworks SSL compressors. Matthias, what's up, dude? Frank Frank asks, the Fortin NTS will have an update soon. Yes. The update is coming very soon. Um, very soon. So yeah, you'll see it come in the pipeline real quick. Um, Modern Vintage says everything else is a far tie for second. I have them all. Yeah. Let's see. So Tyler Britton is referring to one of my previous comments in that he says, "Steven, you cannot be any more correct on the whole just one more mix thing. Nailed it. Thank you again, man." Yeah, no, because I know I've been there. Like it's so easy to like, okay, I'm gonna do this thing, and then like you like go away, and then you come back, you listen again, you're like, I hear something. I gotta go change that again. But like, yeah, just at a certain point just knock it out. Let's see. Okay, so Harry asks, Steven, favorite bus compression, but you can't say API or SSL. Can't say API or SSL. I mean, I love my Pro C, dude. Like, I mean, I might be a pleb for doing that because I know that that's like your Swiss Army knife compressor. That one or what else do I even use? Kramer Pi is also really good. I've used the Kramer Pi, especially on like rooms as well, like rooms and cymbals. The Kramer Pi is pretty awesome. But bus compression, I actually do a lot more multi-band compression than I do bus compression. So like using like the Pro MB is like my go-to for like, especially if I want to do compression with a little bit of like frequency molding and shaping, because you can like set a compressor to like a set range, like a set frequency range, right? And then you can have that kind of like keeping everything in place and then raise that up by a couple of dB. So that way you have like a really smooth frequency in that frequency range. But you just kind of bring that up just slightly so you don't get any like really like peaks or anything like poking through a lot. Like I like doing that with like mid-range stuff. Recently, I've been doing that on my guitars, which I'll actually address in next week's Q&A when I break down this Friday's video. So yeah, if you guys are around for next week's Q&A, I'll break down something cool that I made this week. But no, that's a great question. All right. Lear, how's it going, my dude? Modern Vintage. Any interest in doing amps versus plug-in vids like you guys did for Nameless? Happy to lend you some amps since we're both in LA. Dude, hit me up. Email me, steven@neuraldsp.com. We'll talk. Because I think that that's also like a really valuable thing. I mean, like there are going to be factors that are not going to be quite right, as far as like having like I think there's like certain gear that they have there at the Helsinki place where like it wouldn't be a one to one, but even just doing that comparison I think would be valuable for people to hear. Um, so yeah, I think that that would be pretty dope. Yeah, let me know. All right. Oh, nice. So Michael D says, OMG, I forgot to mention he won Best New Writer Award from the magazine he writes case studies for a couple weeks back. The study that won it was The Murders of Mickey and Trudy Thompson. Dude, congratulations. That's really awesome. I love hearing about that stuff. That's very, very cool, man. I'll have to check that out. Right through. What magazine do you write for? I want to check that out at some point. Taryn Mackay or McKay? Let me know. Yo, Steven, what's your favorite thing to see in terms of people demoing neural gear? Dude, I love seeing people get creative with it. And what I mean by that is that, like, you know, you got a ton of people out there who are already, like, doing like first impressions and stuff like that. Like I want to see people doing something like I'm down to see like weird stuff like, hey, I use this neural DSP thing on a synth pad or whatever. Like that would be pretty cool. Or do you do like your own personal like take on it? Like something that I've been wanting to do and I will slowly start to do this is sprinkle in more artist tone videos of like low gain or rock or no gain, just clean guitar players. Like I would love to do that with the plugins and kind of bring that element to their, to the brand because like these plugins, like our initial crowd, like our initial like group of people who really like bought into us was like the metal crowd, right? We came out with Fort and Nameless and the Dark Glass and stuff like that, and it's all like they're super metal, and that's awesome. But these plugins are so much more capable than just that. So I want to see people using these in ways that other people are not. So I like seeing people go out and be like, it's like either this is my own personal song, or like here's something like Jack Gardner made a video about doing like I think it was jazz presets for the Nolly, and those are dope. I took a look at them, I installed them on my computer, and I think that they are awesome. Like, they sound fantastic, and that's something that I want to kind of bring to the brand, is the awareness of how versatile these plugins actually are. All right, let's see. Modern Vintage asks, any dream or rare gear you'd like someday? I'm. How do I put this? Okay, so I'm very much not a material dude. I'm actually very much a minimalist in a lot of ways. So I don't have any particular gear that like is my want. Like, I want to have cool gear, obviously. Like, I want to have some cool guitars, I want to have some cool plugins and like all that kind of stuff. But I don't have like a thing. Like, when I was a kid, I actually really wanted the Gibson Les Paul Black Beauty, the one with like the three humbucking pickups. And I thought that was like the coolest thing. Uh, um, but yeah, no, I don't think I have any particular like. I don't have really like a gear wish list. I feel like some of like the coolest stuff is coming out like now. So like I'm just watching everything happen, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. Oh, that's dope. Like, I don't know, for some reason I want a drone. Like, I want to get some like drone shots of like LA, or like do some like cool like weird stuff like that. I think that would be a lot of fun. So yeah, so I don't have anything particular in mind. But I like cool stuff, as everybody does. Let's see. So Michael D says that the magazine, which is unfortunately not sold outside of New Jersey. Okay, cool. Yeah, so no worries. So if you want to send a Microsoft Word copy, that's awesome. Nick Robinson asks, Dark Glass Alpha Omega plugin? I don't know. I don't think that that's in the works, but I'm not sure. All right. Okay, so Taryn McKay says it's Taryn McKay. Awesome. Awesome. So he says that creative and weird stuff is right up his alley. And thanks for the answer. Been loving all the videos lately. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. I'm glad that you're watching this stuff. I'm glad you're finding some value out of it. I really appreciate you saying that. Again, so like we're at the basically halfway point, and I'm going to put out another call. Like, if you guys have like specific questions on compressors, how to use them, when to use them, multi-band compression, parallel compression, like any of that sort of stuff, right? Just, go ahead and toss it in the chat, because I want to be able to, I think I might have even mentioned this on a previous Q&A. It's like, yeah, I could like take a stab in the dark and be like, hey, maybe people want to know about how to parallel compress something. But if I don't have people actually interested in learning that, then nobody's going to tune in, and then like that's just a whole bunch of time wasted on my end. So what I really want to be able to do is kind of link up with you guys specifically and be like, okay, what do you want me to answer? Like, what questions or problems are you guys facing? So that way I can do the research, or I can let you know how I figured it out. Because yeah, I want to be, helpful to you guys, and kind of, make that learning curve a little bit more flat. So yeah, so if you guys have any questions, please feel free to toss those out. Okay, so okay. Now this is okay. I just saw this in the comments, but I actually want to bring some attention to this, and this actually filters back to what we were talking about with Tyler's thing. It's like Michael D says, in regards to his article that won the award. He says, I thought it was a long shot because another finalist entry was written by an award winner, but I guess the readers thought otherwise. Yes. Yes. Okay, so he had two options, right? He had an option to submit, even though he's going up against somebody who has already won an award, or he had the option of saying, like, no, I'm going up against this guy. He'll probably win, and I'll just hold on to this for later, or just not submit it at all. But he took the shot and he made it. That is so important, and that is what I feel separates so many people. The ability to just execute and be able to just say, like, you know what, this isn't perfect, or maybe it's not the most optimal situation, but you execute. And I think that that's super, super important to hear, because that's awesome. Because if Michael D hadn't actually submitted, he wouldn't have gotten the award, but he did it anyway, even though he knew he was up against competition. So he won it, and that's awesome. Like, and I would encourage you all to do the same, because, you know, who knows what's going to happen when you actually just try to do something and actually put something out. Doesn't, you know, and you don't know what kind of attention you're going to bring to yourself. You don't know what kind of reaction your piece is going to have. So put it out and just see what happens. So yeah, awesome, Michael. That's fantastic, dude. Again, congratulations. Modern Vintage asks, have you tried parallax or dark glass plugins with guitars yet? Wondering if it works well in some way for low tuned 7 and 8 strings. I haven't tried that yet. I'm gonna make a note to do that. I gotta actually put it in the calendar, otherwise I'm gonna forget. Michael D, I still need to put those Delphian presets up in my folder, so I have not forgotten about you. Cool. Okay. Modern Vintage, we need Doug back on the show soon. Yes, we do. I totally agree. I want to get Doug, and I want to get Francisco. I want to get a bunch of the other dudes at Neural on here, because they all have really, really interesting stories and interesting perspectives on the stuff that you guys are asking. So I'll set another Q&A up with both of those guys, so that way you guys can kind of talk to the heads of the company. So excuse me. All right, Matthias says, what string tension gauge do you like on your guitars? I'm about to put a 13 to 62 on my 27-inch baritone. I'm curious how this turns out. 13 to 62 should be pretty good on a baritone. So I used to work in a guitar shop, and restringing was like my deal. I would restring guitars pretty much every day. Like, I've restrung thousands of guitars at this point. Maybe tens of thousands, because it was like 12 years, I think, and multiple guitars a day sometimes. Anyway, so yeah, that was my deal. A lot of it has to do with experimentation, because everybody's feel is going to be a little bit different. Every guitar is going to take tension differently. An interesting thing that you can find, if you go to Diodario's website, I think they have it still. I'm not 100% sure. But Diodario actually had a tension chart where they had different string gauges, how many pounds of tension were on the string at what tuning. So you can kind of like get a feel for the range of tension in like real like weights and real measurements by using that. So that was something that I used like on a pretty daily basis to kind of guide some customers' decisions on like strings. I will say that I go more towards like light and medium strings nowadays, and part of that has to do with just I don't play guitar as much as I used to, so I couldn't really hack it with medium or heavy gauge strings. So I try to go with lights or mediums, or like hybrid sets, so that way I have like light top strings and then heavy rhythm strings, so that way it's like I still get the beef out of my rhythm section, but I have a little bit of slinkiness when I'm playing some leads. So yeah, so usually on my 6 strings, if I'm going with my regular 6 strings, my ESP or something along those lines, it's going to be like a 10 or an 11. Now the ESP has a little bit shorter scale length because it's a Les Paul style, so I could go up to 11s and still be comfortable. However, with my Stratocaster, which I haven't had on the channel yet, it's still up in Sacramento actually. But if I use my Stratocaster guitar, I would go with 10s on that one because the scale length is a little bit longer. But yeah, so using 13 to 62 should get you some pretty good tones out of the baritone. Yeah. So all right. All right, so let's. Okay, so Lear says, I'm going to download the trial for Archetype Nolly soon. What are the general differences with Nolly and Nameless? Also, Steve, where's the best place to send some samples to you? Email, maybe. Yes. Yes, so send it to steven@neuraldsp.com. That's my email, so go ahead and send whatever you need there. As far as like general differences between the Nolly and the Nameless, like obviously like the most obvious ones are like the 4 amps, 4 cabinets with the Nolly, single amp, and cabinet with the Nameless. But I feel like the Nameless is brighter overall, is a little less flexible in tones, um, but does high gain to mid gain crunch super, super well. The Nolly is a good all around tool, kind of your Swiss Army knife, right? So, like, you can generally use it for most things. It doesn't have. I mean, how can I describe this? So, like, there's like a crunch to the Nameless where the Nolly is a little bit more spongy with its like distortion and grit. If that makes any sense whatsoever. But the Nameless is a bit more crunchy with its gain. The Nolly's a bit more spongy with its gain. That's I feel like that represents what's in my brain. So so that makes sense. Okay, so Matthias says, when do you know that you reach the point of overdoing compression? That's a good question. I mean, it has to do with a couple of different things. It has to do with what sort of style are you going for? Because some people like that overcompressed sort of style, and I don't particularly. Hmm. That's a thing. I think that's a good question. I think like there has to be dynamics. There has to be life to it because if you overcompress it, I think a lot of it has to do with experience and being able to listen to this stuff a lot because it's hard to quantify. Because when everything is overcompressed, it's very like flat and uninteresting. Like volume levels stay super super similar. Like especially when if you're talking about like drums, right? Like so compressors are meant to like um, minimize the dynamic range, right? So it's the difference between like if you have like a snare going ta 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 ta, but you're compressing it so much that it's like ta 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 like obviously the timbre isn't going to be the same for every single hit, but it brings it to that sort of inhuman sort of quality of volume levels and perception. So like generally when I'm like compressing my drums and stuff like that, I tend to not go way overboard unless it's like a really hyper dynamic snare set. But even then, I might even just dial in different amounts of compression per part. So yeah, I think that's a really really great question, and hopefully that kind of answers it. Um, so yeah. Also, if you're getting like stupid amounts of like pumping, then yeah, then you're just compressing wrong. But yeah, so let's see. Tim Gorman says, "Damn, I'm late again." It's all good, man. We're just hanging out. Still got a little bit. Um, awesome. Okay, so Michael D actually he corrected something that I said earlier. Like said, well, technically he didn't take the chance. His publisher actually submitted the study because he thought it would win, and he was right. But it inspired me to never hesitate about publishing anything. Awesome, fantastic. I love it when you have people like that in your life to be able to help kind of kick your ass out the door. Right? That's awesome. Lear says, not quite a compressor question, but how would you blend a gate And the Zool pedal. Are you talking about the gate and Zool pedal that are in the plugin, or are you talking about having like external gate and Zool plugin on the inside? Because that could be different dynamically. Um, to be honest, I don't think I've ever really paid attention to the gate. Like the Zool pedal is generally just set up well enough that I know it's done wrong if I'm getting too much buzz like at the end of a phrase, and I know it's too like okay, yeah, it's too little if I'm getting buzz at beginning or ending of phrases. And I know it's too much if it's like actually not cut like it's cutting in like at the middle of like pick strokes or like cutting off like, tail end of notes or something like that. So, it kind of just depends and it's going to matter to like you're going to have to do some experimentation on that for sure. I mean, because like you can think about it sort of like the like vocal compression. Okay, so vocals are really really dynamic. There are particular consonants that we use that are super loud, and then for the rest, it's all very very quiet. So what people will do is dial in two different compressors to attenuate different parts of the speech, right? So like your first one is like your first compressor is going to be able to take care of like those super high, super fast, or super like loud parts, and then the rest of it's going to be the second one's used to like smooth out the vocals. So you can kind of see doing the exact same thing where you're trying to dial in the gate and the zool to address different parts of the like clean up different parts of the signal. So it's like you could dial in the first gate to just only handle the noise floor. So like even like your hand movement on the strings turns the gate off, right? And then dial up the zool until that starts to go away, and then start playing and see if that works for your style. That's how I would go about doing that. So like figure out which one is first in the chain, and then kind of address it in that sense. All right, so. All right, my dude with the Cyrillic name that I don't know how to pronounce. He says, "Hi, Steven. Thank you for all your work. Really appreciate it. Any news on Black Friday sale date?" You're gonna get an announcement super fast, very very soon. So we are having a Black Friday sale. I can't talk about it just yet, but that'll be going up really quickly. So you guys will know in advance what's happening. So yeah. Uh, okay. See, Modern Vintage says that nameless clank gent quack is God. I agree, dude. It's such a good amp sim. I love it. Okay. Oh, Calibor 31 says, I'm very new to playing the guitar, so this is mind blowing to me. I got 6 strings, 22 fret electric guitar 9 to 10 years ago, and I don't have all the tools to tune my guitar. Oof. Yeah, man. So, yeah. That's kind of rough. If you can even get, like, I think that there might even be free plugins that you can use to tune your stuff with. Pretty much any DAW is going to come with a tuner as well, if I'm not mistaken. I know Cubase does, and I know Pro Tools does. So yeah. That's kind of a bummer, but I get it. I definitely get that. Okay. Modern Vintage asks, do you use compression when riffing, writing high gain, or do you generally apply it in post or when mixing? I don't use compression when writing or riffing. I prefer, I don't know how you guys feel about this, but like I generally just use the compression during the mix because when I'm writing or when I'm riffing, I want to have that feel of the guitars, like like Modern, you and I have talked about this on the Q&A before, where like the feel of the amp hitting you, like the air, like that's like hitting your chest when you're playing, especially if you're doing some like low chuggas, like when you feel that air, it does something to your creativity. You can kind of just like get into the flow so much more fast, so much more quickly. Um, and so like if I did compression, if I did EQ or anything like that on top of that, like I wouldn't get that same sort of thing. Like, so I kind of want it to feel natural, um, in that sense. So, oh, Lear, yeah. So Lear said, yeah, in the plugin regarding the gate and the Zool. So yeah, so hopefully that helped my explanation. But yeah, so back to Modern's question. Um, yeah, generally I apply it after when I'm mixing and when I need to like actually control those elements. Otherwise, I want to be able to feel like I'm playing a real amplifier. Adnan says, Steven, could you go over ratio in compressors? So the ratio is how much the signal is attenuated after the signal goes above the threshold. So once the signal goes above the threshold, um, now this is where like math comes in. And so it's like, and I'm sure that everybody has heard this a bunch, right? So like you have like a 2-to-1 compressor, 4-to-1, 6-to-1, 8-to-1, 10, 20, and infinity, which is just brick walling. But it's the ratio, like it's not like, think of it almost like in percentages. Um, I guess. Yeah, that could be it. So, yeah, that actually works. That works. I like this. Okay, so if your signal goes above and you're at a 2-to-1 threshold, that means that 50% of your signal past the threshold is going to be allowed through. If you have a 4-to-1 ratio, which means like if you were to like view this in like a fraction form, it'd be 1/4, right? So 25% of your signal is going to be allowed past. So 75% of your signal is actually being attenuated down. So the higher the ratio, the more like, well, the less that's going to be let through. So the more it's going to be attenuated. Um, so yeah, hopefully that kind of helps. Um, yeah, yeah, that's pretty accurate. So yeah, so like every 2 decibels above, one is let through. 4-to-1 ratio, every 4 decibels is let through, only, or every 4 decibels above threshold, only one is let through. So on and so forth. So like once you get to like 20 to 1 and higher, you're basically brick wall limiting, because that's letting almost nothing past the threshold. Because if you think about it in terms of percentages, 1/20 is, what is that? 5%? Yeah, only 5% of your signal that's going above the threshold is being allowed through. 5, 10, 5, 5. Yeah, 5. Yeah, okay, great. Yeah, 5%. I can math. I have the glasses. Means I can math. All right, cool. All right, so it's 1:59. So let's go ahead and start getting the last questions in. So we'll go ahead and wrap up the day. And yes. Okay, so this is a good question. This actually follows up with the previous one. So Carl asks, what about attack and release times? When make it shorter and when to make it longer? Okay, so the attack time is super easy. It's the time it takes after the signal has gone above the threshold for the compressor to kick in. So, and let me address this like if you are compressing a snare, okay? So you want to compress a snare, but you want to make it snap more, right? You want to like you want that initial transient to poke through more. You would set the attack to dip the sound just after the initial stick hit, right? So you'd get that slappy, snappy kind of sound coming through, and then the rest of the body of the snare is attenuated down. Now, let's say you want to bring the attack down and you want to bring out more of the body. So you would go with a hyper fast attack. So that way, once the transient hits that threshold, this compressor automatically snaps down on it. So that way it brings the initial transient down. And here's where a release comes in, because you could do one of two things. So like you could dial in a fast release time as well. So that way when the snare audio goes below the threshold, the compressor releases again. Like it just stops messing with the signal whatsoever. So you would end up just taking like that waveform, like here's the transient here, and like there's the rest of the body of the snare. You would end up just kind of like breaking this off instead of it going like up like this, right? So you'd end up breaking that off, and then the body of the snare comes up. So that way, and here's an important thing about compressors is makeup gain, and I think that a lot of people don't talk about makeup gain as much. Some compressors use auto makeup gain, or will like you're pushing the compressor, you're pushing the audio into the compressor, which makes it louder. Because what it is you're making one thing quiet, one thing loud. And then when it comes to release times, it depends again on what you want it to do. So if you are, so if you're trying to just tame down the transients of the snare, then you would make a very fast release time. So that way everything else is the same. If you made a very long release time, you're basically bringing down the entirety of the signal. So hopefully that kind of addresses that. All right. Okay. So I'm trying to read through the comments real fast. Modern Vintage asks, any Eventide or other non-neural plugins you recommend getting on sale this coming week? I haven't thought of any. I don't know how you guys are when when you work on things. Like I get so hyper focused that everything else goes away. Like and it's good and bad to a degree, because then I tend to forget about things. But that's why I make calendar reminders, so that way I don't forget about things. Okay. Yeah, I mean, obviously, like the neural plugins are going to be like top of anybody's list. I do like Eventide though. Yeah, if you don't have the smash and grab, get that for sure. I like the smash and grab. I've been enjoying using it for sure. Okay, so Matthias says, what's the best way to send you a Logic session so you will be able to hear what I've done in the mix, and ultimately you can do your version of If You're Down? That's a good question. So I don't have Logic. I do have friends who have Logic, so I might be able to have them either print the stuff for me or something. Like, worst case scenario, what you would do is, obviously like mix down the song and send me like the full version of the song, and like so that way I can hear like the single track of what you're doing. And then if you wanted to send me the multi tracks, then you would like consolidate all of your clips to the beginning of the session, so that way I don't have to like move stuff around and figure out where it goes. So you would like commit like or consolidate all your clips to the beginning of the session, so that way they're all one big block of audio of like multiple tracks. And then export all of those individual clips, like the like kick, snare, tom, etc. Bass guitars, whatever you have. And then from there, you just package them up in a zip file, then send them over to steven@neuraldsp.com. If you have problems with this process, email me anyway and let me know what's up, and I might be able to help you with that. So, cool. All right, I think. Oh. So many questions. Okay, so yeah. So Modern Vintage followed up. Any Eventide stuff you like in particular? I use the Black Hole often. I really like the Saturate, which is their clipper. I thought that was actually really dope. I got to use that a few weeks back. I tried the demo for it, and I'll probably pick that one up at some point. Yeah, so I think that's pretty much it. So Tyler Britton says that he just picked up the Boss Katana head and gonna run some neural DSP plugins through it into his Mesa 4x12 and wet himself. Rad. Awesome. Sorry about that, guys. Very cool. Awesome. And okay, so last question, actual last question. Adnan asks, have you caught up on the new Rick and Morty season? Yeah, I watched the first episode, and it's pretty dope. I like it. I thought it was pretty funny. Rick turning into Morty turning into Akira at the end was hilarious. Yeah, so I do like the Rick and Morty. I will admit that. The fan base is a little obnoxious at times, but you know, it is what it is. That's a good show though. I love it. Right. In that case, oops, totally just clipped the audio. Haha. Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for hanging out with me. Thanks for checking out with Q&A. Be on the lookout for the video this Friday. I'm actually like really looking forward to seeing what you guys think of it. And then I'll break down the components of that video in the following Q&A. So if you guys have questions about it, be sure to leave it in the comments, and then I'll address it next week on Q&A. So yeah, you all have a great week. Thank you all so much for hanging out. I'll talk to you soon.